Soil is the foundation of every farm, so improving soil health is critical to maximizing your yields and your bottom line. Tonight, we talk with the agronomist from Crop Vitality about how liquid fertilizers, soil amendments, and nitrogen stabilizers can help you get the most out of the acres you plant. Good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Christina Loren. As we head into the 2020 planting season, you want your soil in peak condition. And tonight, the experts from Crop Vitality are here to help you meet that goal. Joining us on set tonight from Crop Vitality, we have Zach Ogles, Spencer McCown, Laura Goley, and Dave Skillstad. And we're going to jump right into it. Zach, let's make good use of our time tonight. Talking about planting season approaching, Crop Vitality is known as the world's leading producer of liquid sulfur fertilizers. Why sulfur? Why is it such an important consideration for growers?
Well, sulfur has always been very important for any plant health. Just over the past, say, 30 years, sulfur has become more and more important, mainly because we've done a really good job of cleaning up the emissions that go into the atmosphere. So, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we were having up to 20, 25 pounds of sulfur being deposited back on the soil. And so, as a result of that, growers really didn't have to put a lot of effort or attention into sulfur fertility, but now that the air is much cleaner, we have a lot more emphasis being placed on sulfur because we're just not getting that free source that we used to have. So now we have people where they're going out making a point to add 20, 30 pounds of sulfur per acre per year, because as you have new varieties, they're requiring more sulfur, and it's just very important to maximize your yields.
Absolutely. Maximize yields. I think you probably perked a lot of ears up just with those two words. We're going to talk about that tonight, and really that's what it's about. Farmers, as you know, they went through a tumultuous planting season, replanting, late planting. That was the story of 2019. They're looking, I think, many farmers for maybe a little bit of an ease going into this season. Conditions, or just being ready, being prepared to face any conditions that come their way. So they're hoping for better weather, but if they don't get it, they want to be prepared. That's what we're talking about tonight. And Spencer, you're going to talk about potassium because it's becoming increasingly important for growers as well.
Yeah, I think potassium, like phosphorus and nitrogen, has been important in producing crops across the U.S., but I think the increasing interest in it is adequate to, we're putting seeds in the ground that are producing a lot higher yields. These varieties that we're creating are pushing yields higher and higher, and I think that growers are becoming more adapted to learning how to fulfill that nutrient demand throughout the season that these varieties are requiring.
I think the growers really get into the science this day and age because they see what's available, and so they love the science of it. They love the science that's involved, and that's what you do. That's your expertise. 100 years in the ag business. That's a long time, Dave. 100 years. Why has Crop Vitality chosen to narrow it down and specialize in liquid fertilizers? You could have gone in a lot of different directions.
Sure. And I think Zach had a perfect lead in there when he talked about emissions and cleaning up the atmosphere and what do we do with that sulfur? And I think to Tessenderlo or TKI's Crop Vitality's credit, years ago they recognized the ability to go out and capture some of those sulfur gases and process it the way we did at that time, a lot of years ago, but it worked. And the result of that was a liquid ammonium sulfate product, a 120026. And so from that first formulation of that sulfate sulfur form of fertilizer that was manufactured, obviously we've branched off into some other materials that we're probably not going to talk about tonight, but that was really the springboard for how TKI got started. You
bring up a good point, though. You have so much to offer, and I want to remind everybody, if you're interested in anything that we're talking about at any point tonight, go ahead and visit cropvitality.com. It's a fantastic website. It's really easy to navigate, and it shows every product that they have, how you can get in contact with your dealer. You're going to find out the number. So one more time, that's cropvitality.com for those of you who just want to jump on the phone and find out more right this very moment, cropvitality.com. Okay, we're going to keep moving here because this is a very important time, and farmers, they want to use every dollar very wisely. So, Laura, talk a little bit about the role of liquid fertilizers in California. I mean, you're in the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah, liquid fertilizers are extremely important in the San Joaquin Valley and California in the West because it's so arid. So these irrigation systems really are complemented by liquid fertilizers. So we can really see so much greater yielding potential when we combine both the liquid fertilizers and these low volume irrigation systems. So just as an example, it's not uncommon if you have a Pima cotton field on one side of the road that's furrow irrigated, and then you have a Pima cotton field exactly the same variety but drip irrigated. It's very common that drip irrigated field is going to out yield by at least a bale to the acre the furrow irrigated field. So.
Pima cotton as well, that's definitely growing in popularity. More people are using it for sheets. Talk a little bit about nitrogen fertilizers, liquid applications. You see this being adopted in California more so?
Oh, absolutely. So liquid nitrogen applications are very common, and we frequently blend our products with UN32 or many other AN20, aqua ammonia. There's a lot of combinations that you can do and create really nice blends with our entire portfolio of products.
Wow. All right, growers, again, they're making these big decisions right now. Maybe a farmer is considering a transition, but they just aren't quite there, and they still have time to make that decision before they get seed in the ground. What would you say to that person?
Well, I think that, I wouldn't necessarily say to go 100% from a dry program to 100% a liquid program, but, you use the word transition. I think that kind of hits home is allow yourself to transition yourself to apply liquids and more use them as a supplement to your traditional dry applications that you're making, and contact some guys to talk about it and see how we can help you out there.
Okay. One of the reasons why farmers watch this show is they're always looking for tips. They're always looking for the new cutting edge available products. So let's have some tips if we can when it comes to applying liquid fertilizers. You know what I mean? Let's help the farmers out. Anybody? Tips?
So,
You'll have some.
Of course,
I know.
Of course. So,
We'll give
one of the products we're going to highlight tonight is Cairo 23,
Yes.
which is a potassium and sulfur liquid that's really seed safe. It's able to be applied directly in the furrow, directly in contact with the seed, which is, for most farmers out there, they know that you're somewhat limited as to what you can actually put out in that way. And to be able to put out sulfur and potassium directly on soybeans especially, that is a pretty unique, unique application. And we've seen really good results from doing that.
Tell us about some of the results that you've seen.
So I'll give you one example. We have a research farm out in Dinuba, California, not far from Fresno in the San Joaquin Valley. And I conducted a trial there in 2018 looking at soybeans. And we applied 0 Cairo 23, 2 gallons, and 6 gallons directly on the seed. And what we ended up finding was between 6 and 7 bushel increase of those soybeans. So really a very cost-effective application, and can really affect a grower's bottom line.
Why might a grower say they've had a past experience using, say, a different brand? Why should they go forward with this in-furrow application? What can you say to them to maybe put their minds at ease from something that they may have heard, a misconception?
Well, one very common misconception is that it's injurious to the germinating seed.
Right.
And we have done numerous studies with Cairo 23 on cotton, soybeans, corn, all your big acre crops, and we've found that when applied correctly, that's perfectly fine and is actually bumping up yields.
Wow, that's exciting. I mean, it's got to be exciting to be kind of on the cutting edge and seeing this research and seeing the improvement each trial. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I can't wait to kind of uncover some of those trials going forward. But let's talk about the actual banding. It's also an important plant nutrition option. Why so?
Well, I think, really the advantage, a lot of the advantages of banding really coattail right on with the advantages of liquid.
Yeah.
And so liquid really gives growers, I think the one thing that has always been a take home is that flexibility, is the ability to, we represent from one end of the country to the other here. So the cropping systems are different. The actual crops are different. But that ability to change rates, not only change rates but change formulations, really gives growers the option of almost prescription blending to the farm what is actually needed on that farm. And I represent obviously the Midwest and Nebraska, and so we have we have a lot of cattle, we have a lot of feedlots, a lot of swine, hog production, and so how do we incorporate that? The need to deal with all that product and then go out and still farm responsibly, I guess. And so for growers to be able to go from areas of farms that have low fertility, soil characteristic issues, high pH, low pH, we can go on and on, but then to be able to fertilize those types of situations and then go over to areas obviously that have much higher fertility because of the livestock we have available to us, and then be able to back off in prescription those types of formulations. I think the other thing is the flexibility that the equipment has really evolved over the years. The ability to go in-furrow, as we were talking about, the ability to still go in that more traditional 2x2 application, 0x2 application.
Wow.
And it just keeps going on. The wide drop type applications that are available all really kind of enhance liquid fertilizer's ability to work in those situations.
Yeah, it's the precision that can account for the variability that you see on every field.
And just to dovetail into what Dave is saying, I have the opportunity to work with growers from coast to coast. So that flexibility that you're talking about is really key with the liquid products. And with our product line in general, we have the ability to fit into many, many different production systems, whether it be row crops, whether it be berries, whether it be citrus, whether it be turf grass. We've got a lot of different applications that that our products work very well in.
See, that's interesting because in agriculture, as you know, there's so many specialties, so many granular details that go into each various crop. So that's amazing because you probably have a citrus farmer in the San Joaquin Valley of California is interested in what you have as a soybean farmer in Iowa. Let's go back to California and talk about how farmers who are using your products are finding more sustainability and even they don't have as much reliability on water with your product. Is that correct?
Exactly. So sustainability is a really important topic in California because we're always trying to do more with less.
Yes.
So in terms of liquid fertilizer and water application, we can really time our liquid fertilizer applications with the peak demand periods of the crop. So what we end up seeing is that we can use fewer nutrients and fewer inputs overall, but still maintain yields or actually increase yields. So for example, with our Cairo 23 product, that form of sulfur and potassium is so bioavailable that during the season when conditions are extremely hot and the plant is stressed, that form of sulfur and potassium doesn't require the plant to expend to have extra energy to break down the nutrients or go scavenging in the soil profile for those nutrients. So we see that the plant is less stressed overall and we're doing more with less. And then we can also, because Cairo 23 is so safe, you can actually apply a few more pounds of K2O per application, thereby saving another fertigation set. So it's not only is it sustainable, it's really convenient. And
yes, and the farmers are looking for convenience, especially the grilling conditions that they had to deal with last year. I think that's a key word going into this year. But we know farmers are such hard workers. They're going to find something else to do with that time. Okay, well, let's talk about the 4 R's.
Right. Well, the 4 R's are really important. And I think with our products, what sets them apart is you have the right source. So you have these very bioavailable forms of nutrients. And the thiosulfate, which we have several thiosulfate products, and then also the chemistry in Cairo 23 is really unique. So it's the right source. And then you can place it exactly where the plant roots are if you're going to do a soil application, or because it's already in the liquid form, a foliar application. It's just really readily absorbed by the plant. So the 4 R's are only going to grow in importance. And I think, whenever we go out and advise on on a grower's ranch, we just really take a holistic approach into what all of the conditions they're dealing with are. So is that water, soil pH, and then we can advise which product or how you would use our products in their fertility program, or perhaps in certain situations, we would recommend something that we don't even sell. So we always want to find the best solution for the grower.
See, I love that. I love that. And even if you're not the answer, you still want them to have that high yield. So that's great. I love that. Another reason why, if you're interested right now in what we're talking about tonight, you can go to cropvitality.com right now and find out more information. All right, it's time to involve you into the conversation. We're going to pause for a moment, but we are taking your calls next, and we want to hear from you tonight. 877-731-6733 is the number to call. Planting season just weeks away now. Call in with your questions for our panel of experts. 877-731-6733. We're going to continue our discussion on the advanced chemistry and technology that can maximize your yields when we return. More Rural America Live with Crop Vitality right after this. Welcome back to Rural America Live. Joining us tonight, the experts from Crop Vitality. And remember, you're such an important part of this show. We want you to join the conversation tonight. Give us a call. The agronomists and specialists, they're here to answer your questions tonight. The number is 877-731-6733. Our panel of experts from Crop Vitality, they want to help you meet your yield goals for 2020. Joining us once again on set tonight from Crop Vitality, we have Zach Ogles, Spencer McCown, Laura Goley, and Dave Skillstad. Now, planting season is right on top of us now, and farmers want to plant as early as possible, sometimes even with cold, wet conditions. That soil, it can be really tough, and especially because we have so little control over what Mother Nature is going to provide for us each and every year. When and why was Cairo 23 originally launched, and how does it really play into some of these concerns we're talking about?
Yeah, so Cairo 23, it's a patented product, and the patent was filed in 2012. Now, from that time until for several years, we did a lot of testing. We wanted to make sure that we had, had perfected the rates and the timing and all for the product. So, several years later, it was actually introduced to the market. But where Cairo 23 can play a really important role in what you mentioned, which is the cold, wet soils, and because everybody wants to get out early.
As early as possible.
As early as possible. So when you do that, unfortunately, some of the nutrients that would be available to the germinating seedlings not available because the microbes in the soil just haven't got active at that point. So, so with sulfur in particular, a lot of the sulfur that's actually in our soils is in an organic form that has to be mineralized so that the plants can actually take it up. But one thing that we found is that in cold soils, when we apply Cairo 23 directly on that seed, then we're putting potassium and readily available sulfur right there where that seed's going to be able to germinate and start to take that sulfur up, regardless of whether or not it's cold soil or not.
Wow. Okay, that's huge. I mean, cool soil. That's part of the reason why we had to wait so long last year, as we continued to see not just the rain, but the very cold waves that went through the Midwest as well. So now you're really getting people interested out there tonight. Dave, what specific market did Cairo 23 fulfill?
Well, I think Cairo probably, there's probably two different areas I think that really Cairo fit the bill. So again, we talk a lot about different soil conditions, different soil types, and I think especially in my area where we've had other liquid materials that we have access to, the one area that in Nebraska, Colorado, and I think virtually everywhere is we have soil types that are a little more fragile, and so we really need to look at those sandy, coarse textured, lower organic matter soils, and then when we start talking about going in furrow, that's what gets people a little nervous. So Cairo 23 really fit that bill on those type of soils where we can go in furrow and really have a lot of crop safety. The other item that I think that Cairo 23 filled was the ability to use higher rates. But always been very limited as to how much sulfur or potassium that we can put in furrow. So in both corn and soybeans being the different one to talk about tonight, we can go in furrow on corn at higher rates, as well as adding soybeans to that mix that we didn't have before. So those two areas, I think, would be most notable for Cairo 23.
You know, we always learn from example. Do you have a real world example that you can share with us where Cairo 23 was the best option?
Well, I think, yes, a number of them. And obviously I spent enough years in the retail business where we had situations, blending issues, application issues, and in some of those situations, you learn, even though it maybe was a mistake. And a good example of both technology that had gotten bigger. Again, worked with some of these growers that I worked with for over 20 years. And so sort of saw that evolution of 4-row planters, 8-row planters. This happened to be a 24-row planter.
Ooh.
Like I couldn't wait to get rolling with it. And so we'd put together a blend using our potassium and sulfur compound, and like a 5-6 gallon to the acre, which is very common going in furrow, and this was on corn. And the grower called me up towards the evening that night and said, and he couldn't stay. It was way too early, and it was way too cold and wet. But he was just going to go plant corn, period. And he did. And he called me up and he said, "What that starter you recommended? What were we shooting for that?" And I said, "Well, I think 5-6 gallon." And he said, "Oh, I think I got a little heavy." And so I asked him, one thing about these new planters, they give you lots of information, so he could tell me exactly how many feet that he planted before the tanks ran empty. And he gets all done, and I did the math on it, and we were shooting for 5 or 6. We ended up just a little over 17 gallons to the acre. So there was a case where he said, "Well, I guess we're going to replant, aren't we?" And I said, "Well, we'll watch it, And so that was really my first experience with looking at the crop safety of these materials that we bring to the market. And that corn for the first month and a half was about 2 shades darker green and about 3 inches taller. And we grew every kernel. And now, do we recommend that? No, we don't recommend that. But you know what? The bottom line is you got away with it.
Hey.
And so
sometimes they do. And everybody knows that guy.
Yeah.
That's
and his brother.
And his brother. Never learned from his brother. All right. We're going to go to the phones. First off, I want to give you the number. I know you want to jump in this conversation. We're going to get to your calls. 877-731-6733 is the number to call. And join us tonight. We've got a line open for you right now. Tom from Minnesota, you are first up. Go right ahead.
Well, the question I had is, I've just tuned in and heard him answering my question, but I do have another question. Now, is this a dry product or a liquid product?
The products that we're talking about, Cairo 23, it's a liquid product with potassium and sulfur, really specifically designed for in-furrow applications, and it has many other uses too, but that was one of the real driving factor that makes that product special.
Okay, well, I guess maybe I'm behind times, but I have never heard of fertilizer in the furrow with soybeans, and you're convinced that works.
We are convinced that that works. Now, of course, there are some caveats to that. You want to make sure that you follow the application guide that we put out, that you don't exceed the recommended rates like Dave's friend did. But when applied correctly at the rates we recommend, we're confident that not only will it not cause harm, but that it will, in fact, there's a good chance that it could increase your yields too. Of course, that depends on the season, but in our studies, we've shown consistently, a small bump in yield.
Excellent. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, but I think the caller's spot on. I mean, and that has just always been taboo, I guess, in soybeans and going in furrow. So it is. It's going to take a little while for people to take a look at this and get comfortable with it. But again, and specifically in my area, and I would maybe ask the grower or the caller, please. Could you give me just a real quick snapshot of kind of what soil types that you work with?
Actually, yeah, we just lost him.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, I appreciate hearing that conversation and that back and forth, and it does go to show that there are some misconceptions. But you know, the automobile, that was a tough one for people to wrap their brain around as well. So this is how things start. You guys are just getting the word out, and so that is what we're here to do tonight. Really appreciate that call, Tom. And remember, if you want to know more about the products, we're doing the best we can to let you know tonight, but you may have more specific questions. Go to the website, cropvitality.com. That's where you're going to find everything you need to know, including how you can get into contact with your dealer. So you'll find out more information there. Cropvitality.com is where you want to go. Okay, we are going to go back to the phones in just a moment. 877-731-6733. That's the number to call. But first, let's go back. Spencer, how is Cairo 23 different from other fertilizers?
I think we've kind of hit on some of the main points as far as it being a potassium and a soluble sulfur source that can be seed safe, can be applied in furrow, particularly on soybeans and corn. I think one thing that makes it kind of interesting is it can be a standalone product. You know, Cairo 23 can be applied in furrow on soybeans, but it can also be blended with ammonium polyphosphate, you know, 1034-0 or 1137-0 in furrow on corn. Also blends well with UAN 32 or 28%. So I think its versatility is really what makes it stand out in the market.
Okay. Now I know that there's some farmers out there, they're already checking their soil temperatures out there already, and it's only February. You know they're out there doing it though. They're thinking about getting seed into the ground. How does temperature impact uptake and potassium and sulfur?
Well, when the plants are, when it's planted, like particularly soybeans are very sensitive to cold soil. So when you plant seed in cold soil, the whole process is slowed down. I mean, the plants don't break the soil quickly, but their ability to take up nutrients is slowed down. I mean, it's just you're really, in some ways, you roll the dice with the cold soil. But again, one of the things that we found is in the cold soil, when you apply the potassium and sulfur together right there on the seed, even in slow germinating conditions, when those plants they're just about to crack the soil, you know, they're able to uptake that potassium and sulfur right there, and we're starting to see some good results from that.
Ahead of emergence, huh? That's very interesting.
I think I jump in on that comment with Zach, and again, our situations vary as we move across the country, but I think in so many areas, and this has been really driven by seed treatments. Growers have access to seed treatments that we didn't have access to years ago. So that gives us a little edge, and that sort of encourages growers to go, well, you know, I think I'm getting away with planting in a little cooler soils. Yeah. And so that just continues. The bigger driver, I think, in a lot of the areas in the Midwest has been the continued advancement of no-till. And so as we get into those no-till markets, and again, my area is my area, but really seeing not only the desire to go out and plant sooner, but the equipment that allows these guys to go out in no-till situations and put a soybean crop in the ground right behind the heaviest corn crop residue that you could ever imagine, and literally get a perfect stand. So those soil types are even cooler. They've even got more issues with emergence, and so I think our potassium and sulfur that we're able to place with it, sometimes it's a pretty fine line between a good stand and one that's maybe a do-over.
Yeah, well, you got to hit that equal balance just right. Okay, we have someone who called in. They didn't want to actually go on live on television. Understandable. 877-731-6733 is the number to call if you do want to join our conversation. But they want to know, what is the optimum organic matter content in soil? Is there such a thing? It depends on where you are, I guess.
Right. I mean, so again, as I mentioned before, I get the opportunity to work from one coast to the next. So I get to see a lot of different soil types. And to answer your question, there is no normal. I mean, it's in Florida, you may have 0.5%. You may get in some heavier soils where you can have 3-4%. I mean, so it does depend. But one of the things that's really important with organic material in the soil is that organic material is responsible for providing a certain amount of sulfur. So each percentage of organic material that you have, that's going to be responsible for generating, so many pounds of actual sulfur that'll be available to the plant. So the more organic material you have, probably the better. But there's just no hard and fast rule on that.
Yeah, and then of course you got to put it in a vacuum, even if there was.
That's right.
Okay. Well, we are going to go back to the phones. Bruce from Wisconsin. Thank you for joining the conversation. Bruce, go right ahead.
Yes. Well, I did take the temperature outside. I know it's frozen up here, but anyways. Question I got is, okay, we got all kinds of soil up here. That sand to dark black dirt to clay. How is that? How's that product going to work as far as that on soybeans and corn?
Good question.
So the Cairo 23 has a lot of diverse uses, and we've tested that on sandy soils, we've tested it on heavy clay soils, and the one thing we have like slightly lower recommendations on sandy soil than we would recommend for a soil with more clay in it. But one of the things I would suggest is if you have a really low organic matter soil that's a coarse texture, one of the things you may want to consider to apply slightly more sulfur on those coarse texture sandy soils, because as you know, sulfate is prone to leaching just like nitrates are in the soil. So I would suggest probably go a little bit, maybe not all at once, but be able to incorporate additional sulfur throughout the season on those light textured soils.
All right. Thank you so much for that call, Bruce. And that leaves a line open for you. 877-731-6733 is the number to call and join our conversation. Laura, before we go back to the phones, I'm curious, can Cairo be applied at other times during the growing season?
Absolutely, and that's probably one of the most common practices in California. So, we like to do everything differently out west. Throughout the growing season, let's use almonds as an example.
Perfect.
From about March to June is when we use quite a bit of Cairo for potassium applications while the almonds are forming and the tree is blooming, etc. And then post-harvest, we'll do another application of Cairo 23 just to help that tree go into dormancy with adequate supplies of potassium. So actually in 2019 was a really interesting year when we saw what great value Cairo 23 brings to growers, because like most of the country, we had a crazy weather year. And even though California has a Mediterranean climate, it rained all the way in past Memorial Day, which is highly unusual. So we were working with an almond grower, and he was really worried about it because he lost several opportunities to fertigate in the early season. So what we did is we tweaked his fertility program. We put Cairo 23 in with his other fertilizers, his nitrogen and phosphorus products that he was going to use. And then so we just were able, because the Cairo 23 is so safe, we were able to make up a lot of those missed applications in a condensed time frame.
Wow.
So, we weren't expecting a lot, maybe to break even with the yield that he received the prior year, but we actually found that he out-yielded 2018, so we're really happy with that result.
That's great. It's interesting. You had it's feast or famine in California many years, so you had a great rainy season. But we talked earlier about the water-saving opportunities as well with this product. You think about going into a drought year, you think about a crop like almonds that require a lot of water. Talk about how it could be beneficial in maybe a drought year.
Yeah, totally. So, with the dry product, that's how my grandfather farmed. He used a lot of dry products, and he would apply those in the fall. And there's nothing wrong with that practice, but nutrient banking in California doesn't always guarantee that you're going to have a positive interest the following year. You also lose control over where those nutrient nutrients go, or even if they're going to be available when the crop actually needs it. So really, a liquid product, and our products in particular, are giving back reliability and giving control to the grower. And that's, in terms of sustainability and getting value out of your applications, there's really no better way to do that. So it's a gamble in California that you're going to have enough time and that you'll have enough water or rainfall to break those dry materials down. So kind of take some of the guesswork out of the nutrient application.
It gives you a little bit more peace of mind, a little more comfort going into the actual growing process. What about in your part of the country?
We've, I guess we focused pretty exclusively so far on starter type blends, whether they're the in-furrow starters, the 2x2s, but where I've seen, again, an additional opportunity for growers to use something like this, where maybe crop safety's not, number one on the list, but certainly available potassium and sulfur is, and some type of a blend. And so strip till is very popular in quite a few areas of the Midwest. So basically these guys are going out with a 1034, 1137 type blend with Cairo, probably got some zinc in it. And quite honestly, if they were going out in the fall, there would not be nitrogen in that blend, but more of a spring application, they'd have nitrogen also in that strip till. So Cairo really fits quite well there. We've got a few mixing things that we need to be a little bit concerned about. I'll step out here also and mention that we really work very closely with our dealers.
Good.
And those are the guys that really are kind of front line and need to understand what we can and what we can't do. And so we do everything we can to educate and make them aware of those things. Other than that, really the strip till, we've kind of looked at Cairo being able to go some foliar. Little working on that, a little work in progress, I guess, on that one right now. And but the other timing, I think that I've seen growers do with both Cairo and with a couple of our other potassium sulfur products, herbicide applications. So we not everybody has a pivot, not everybody has a strip till machine, but everybody sprays every acre with some type of a herbicide compound, both corn and soybeans. And so we have the opportunity there, again, with doing the due diligence, I guess, and making sure that we've got a tank mix that works. Yeah. We can do some of those overlays, those herbicide applications with Cairo at a pre-emergence time.
All right. Well, we're getting a lot of calls upstairs tonight, so we're going to go to the phones. We are going to take a break in just a moment, so thank you for staying on the line. We will get to your calls, 877-731-6733. First, we want to go to Ken from Michigan. Thanks for joining the conversation. Ken, go right ahead.
Yes. What analysis is your Cairo 23?
Cairo 23 is obviously a 23% potassium and an 8% sulfur.
He was ready for that question.
It's about 2.6 pounds of potassium per gallon and about 0.96 pounds of sulfur per gallon.
All right. Well, we know we have more calls, and we are grateful for your calls tonight. Keep them coming, 877-731-6733. We're going to pause for a break, but remember, we still want you to join the conversation. 877-731-6733. Planting season is approaching, and tonight you have a great opportunity to call in with your questions for a panel of experts. Get your question answered directly. You don't have to search for it online. We have a panel here for you tonight. Stay with us. More Rural America Live with Crop Vitality right after this, and we'll get to your call. Welcome back to Rural America Live with Crop Vitality. We're getting a lot of great calls. Remember, you're an important part of this show, and we want you to join the conversation. Give us a call. The agronomists and specialists with us, they're ready to take your questions ahead of planting season. It's a great opportunity. 877-731-6733. So joining us once again, the experts from Crop Vitality. They're here to help you meet your yield goals going into this planting season. Joining us once again on set tonight, we have Zach Ogle, Spencer McCown, Laura Goley, and Dave Skillstead. We're going to go right to the phones. We're going to Canada, and you may not know it, but RFD TV now available in Canada. We're excited. You're our first Rural America Live call from Canada, Alex. Thanks for joining the conversation. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My question is there any benefit to sulfur-based fertilizers on forage crops? We have a lot of exhausted hay stands, and I'm just kind of wondering if there's any benefit in that.
Sure. I mean, again, we have a number of different products in our product portfolio. It's not, not just the Cairo 23. Although Cairo could be an option in forage crops, but I would say, again, in forages, the same as the row crops, just really have to look at your soil test to see where your sulfur is and the amount of organic material that's in your soil, because you can definitely see a yield bump from sulfur in a situation where the sulfur is limited. So yes, I would say definitely put that as part of the fertility program that you have.
All right, excellent. And you mentioned that you have a wide range of products, and boy, do you. I would invite you, if you're someone who's interested in learning more about what Crop Vitality has to offer, just visit the website. It's really, really easy to navigate. We really appreciate that. CropVitality.com. One more time, that's CropVitality.com. Thank you for that call. Really appreciate that. That was from Alex of Saskatchewan. That leaves a line open for you. The number to call is 877-731-6733. Okay, let's continue this conversation, Zach. How and why is it safe to put sulfur and potassium near the seed with Cairo 23? That's what keeps coming up tonight.
Right. It has to do with our patented formula that we have for the product, and just the way the product reacts in the soil. So again, a lot of products have issues with damaging the seeds when they germinate. So Cairo 23 is just it kind of fits that market there. It doesn't cause harm to the seed, and just a good fit for these row crops.
And soybean hybrids, I mean, talk about why people are so skeptical about hearing this when it comes to soybeans.
Yeah, I think just since really soybean production has been, I think probably materials that have come and gone over the years, and really been quite consistent that in those applications where we got close to the seed that there was damage. So it's hard to undo a lot of years of that type of crop response. So again, I think soybeans, just like corn genetics, the soybean genetics are improving, better cold soil tolerance. And again, the seed treatments that are a part of that whole package. As far as these growers taking a look at both potassium and sulfur, it just has not been the norm, I guess, is where I'm trying to go with that. It just has not been a normal application. So.
Yeah. And I should have said varieties. Sorry about that, guys. I know everyone's like, whoa, he's talking about corn.
But to add on to what Dave said, everybody up here in our group, everybody has an ag background. So
yes.
The last thing we would want to do is to make a recommendation that's not going to perform for a grower. So we want to. Our success is when the growers are successful, and that's what we really want to strive for.
And that's something I want to spend a moment with you on, because this is something you've dedicated your life to. It's a beautiful body of work that you've been able to build. A part of the reason why is because the technology that you have available to you because of Crop Vitality. How has the way that you look at what you do now, how has that changed over the years, especially when you look back at when you first started, looking at what you've been able to build and to work on? This is an amazing product for farmers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's over the past, one of the ways that we have really been able to increase our knowledge about our products and about production methods is through our research farm. We have a research farm located in Dinuba, California. It's not very far from Fresno. And through that farm, we're able to conduct our own research. We're able to do replicated trials and really put these products in real world situations. We're able to do field trials. We can do, we've got 2 different greenhouses, so we're able to do greenhouse work. We have lab set up so we can do lab work. And that's one of the things that really, has allowed us to sort of keep up with this technology over the past, several years.
It's got to be pretty cool, though, to know that you're right there at the forefront of it all.
Yep. Yeah. It is. It's a very, very, very nice asset for us to have, for sure.
Very humbling, I'm sure, as well. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones. Really appreciate you staying on the line with us. John from Pennsylvania, go right ahead.
Yeah, hello. My salt content in my soil is getting high, and my soil is tight clay ground. I was wondering if your fertilizers are lower in salts than the dry fertilizers I've been using.
I don't know what specific dry fertilizers have you been using. I know some of those can have a pretty significant effect on your salt content. Like, could you share a few of those examples with us?
I'm making 5 and 6 crops a hay a year. I'm putting 200 to 250 pounds of 22, 11, 22 on my field after every crop.
Mm-hmm. So that could be an issue. Do you not get a lot of, so you said you had heavy clay soil. So, I guess probably all fertilizers, they are salts, or just dissolved, they're salts by nature. So one of the things I think in your situation, those heavy soils, you're going to have to, just sort of focus on managing what you have. And, some of our products, like Cairo 23, it doesn't have a very high salt index. But, again, all fertilizers that are added to the soil will have some impact on your overall salts.
All right. Appreciate that call, John. Thank you so much. We have another John on the line, this time from Kansas. Thanks for joining the conversation. Go right ahead. John, are you there?
I get my fertilizer in by a semi-load, I was wondering if it settles out. Sometimes I have to keep it from 1 year to the next when I don't use it all. Wondered if it settles out very much, and wondered what it costs per acre.
So all of our liquid formulas, whether they be thiosol, our ammonium thiosulfate product, or KTS or Cairo, they're all formulated to have a really good shelf life. And one of the things that, as long as it doesn't get cold, past the salt out point, then these products can store for quite a while. Now we don't want to, you wouldn't want to store it for an excessive amount of time, but as long as you keep the temperature up and you don't allow it to get extremely cold, then you'll be fine. For example, Cairo 23 has a salt out temperature that is very low, below freezing. So that one we should be okay with, but most of our products, I don't think you would have a problem with that.
All right. Thank you so much for that call from Kansas. That leaves a line open for you, 877-731-6733. We're going to go to Arkansas this time to talk to Liz, I believe. Liz, are you with us? Thanks for joining us. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you. Is this Les? Okay. Is that how you say your name, Les?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Go right ahead.
Yeah. Yes. My question was with the Cairo 23, being that I have a pH soil samples coming out in 5.2, 5.3, 5.6s, would that be a safeguard application I can use the Cairo 23 that will kind of help me out for as my soil pH is?
Okay, so just to clarify, it sounds like that you have a probably slightly lower than optimal soil pH, and you're wanting to know if Cairo 23 would be an option for you there.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Cairo 23 has a pretty negligible effect on soil pH, so it certainly would not cause you any further issues with your soil pH. It may have just a very slight acidifying effect, but in comparison to, say, ammonium nitrate or urea or something like that, it's pretty negligible.
All right. Really appreciate that call. Thank you so much for joining the conversation from Arkansas. I think a question that we really haven't addressed yet that I think probably a lot of people are wondering right now, do I have to change my planting equipment to use Cairo 23?
Well, I wouldn't say you have to necessarily change your planting equipment. Cairo is targeted toward that in-furrow application, meaning, in the furrow directly on top of the seed, but not necessarily does it have to go there. 2x2, 2x0 is pretty common practice for liquid application. So whether it be in a 2x2 or in-furrow application, I think that, those might have to have some adaptation to the planter itself, but, it could be dribbled out behind the planter as well. It doesn't have to necessarily go in-furrow or behind a disc. I think if you're using a nitrogen source now at planting, maybe you could add some Cairo into that blend. I think that speaks for the volume of the versatility of Cairo. Being able to blend it and put it out at different timing throughout that year is nice.
All right. I love hearing from such a humble group that has worked with farmers face to face. You want farmers to be able to overcome these obstacles. And remember, if you want to see a complete list of products, it's really easy. CropVitality.com. You see it right there at the bottom of your screen. Now, we only have a few moments left. I want to give everybody a chance, kind of go around the table for final thoughts. Starting with you.
Yeah, I think in today's farming environment, it's extremely challenging. Not only do we have agronomic challenges and pest issues, but we also have trade issues. So it's easy to get a little bit down on all of the things that we have to deal with. But at the same time, we have a lot of innovations and new tools like Cairo 23 that are kind of really helping move the needle towards towards meeting those challenges. And I think, don't tell the regulators, but I think maybe we'll be able to maybe exceed these challenges and do more with less.
I love it. Okay. You're up.
Okay. Well, I think, it's been interesting, an interesting run these last few years where we've really seen these grain prices kind of come back to levels that we haven't seen for a while.
That's right.
And this 2012, really from 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, where we really had some very profitable years on the farm, and I think everybody's, looking back at that. The temptation sometimes when things get a little more difficult like they are now is to start looking at where we can, maybe cut some corners or do some things like that, and I guess that was always a kind of a thought of mine that, when things are as good as they were during that time, it's pretty, I want to say it's easy to make money, but it's certainly easier when things get difficult now. And I'm going to roll this back to why I think Tessenderlo Kerley thinks so highly of working with retailers, because the retailers are really the ones that need to sit down with these growers and give them that guidance when things get tougher like they are now.
Yeah, a shout out too to the Crop Vitality, all of the dealers out there watching tonight. We know you're working hard. Okay, we only have about 30 seconds left. We know you're going to be at Commodity Classic. Let us know more about that.
Yeah, so the Commodity Classic, February 27th through 29th, we'll be in booth 917. So come by and see us. We'll be glad to help you any way we can.
Commodity Classic. It's going to be a big one this year. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Rural America Live. Love being able to be a part of what you're doing to help farmers out there. Remember, CropVitality.com is where you need to go for any information. Thank you for joining us. Wishing you and your family a beautifully blessed evening.